Welcome to the Pharos Fit podcast, where we help you to explore your capacity to move better, push further, and achieve your limitless potential through fitness, nutrition, recovery, and lifestyle. Hey guys, welcome back to the Pharos Fit podcast. I'm here today with Alex Catalano. Alex is one of our members, and I'm sitting across from her, and I know you guys can't necessarily see us right now, but let me tell you, she is jacked. She has gone through one of the biggest transformations I've kind of seen. I mean, you were fit when you first came here, but now you're like super fit, like
thank you
lean,
for saying that, because I
strong.
don't see it, but thank you.
Oh my god, it's impressive. It's impressive. So before we get into it, and by the way, Alex is a healthy lifestyle specialist, and we're going to get into that a little bit. But tell us first of all, like, how did this happen? How did this transformation?
You happened.
Well, no, but you know, let's be honest. Like, what change did you make from before you came here to now?
Yeah, my whole life, I had never lifted heavy weights before. I had done HIIT training. I had done bar classes. I did a year of hot yoga, and I was like, why did I do that? But I never lifted a heavy weight, and it's amazing. This gym changed my life because you guys, a lot of people, you can't see me. My feet are not touching the ground. I am 4'11", and people go like, oh, that's too heavy for you. You can't lift that. And this is the first place I've ever been where people are like, no, you can do more than that. And every single coach here has told me that. And it's the craziest thing, because when I first started, it was I wanted to look a certain way. And now I see how it's transformed my confidence, how, you know, when I go to places, I feel like I can take care of myself in a way that I was never able. Like, I lift my groceries, and I'm like, who am I? Like, I could never, like, I lift so many things that I don't think I could do. Yeah. And it touches your life in ways that you're like, I'm going to send that email. Like, I don't know why, but it just makes you see yourself differently.
It does. And I also like the things you learn in here translate out there. The way you behave in there translates out there. And that's my favorite thing about the gym. That's my favorite thing about training. Yeah. So take us back. How did you become this healthy lifestyle person that you now are? Because I'm assuming it's not always been that way. There was a point in your life where this became the thing.
Totally.
So tell us your story. How did it happen?
Well, it all started. I was a young girl in Van Nuys, and no, when I was always struggling with trying to look a certain way, and for me, it all kind of came to head when I went to college. I got into USC for opera singing. As a fellow musical person yourself. So cool. And I was studying opera singing, and USC was kind of a party school. And so I was in a sorority. I don't know why, but I was. And I, at the time, this is how old I am, Instagram did not exist, and neither did Facebook. It was brand new. Facebook was brand new. So a lot of my health and lifestyle stuff came from Cosmo, or like teen magazines and things like that. I don't know if you've read one of those things. They hate you.
Yes,
they give you really bad advice. Yeah. And I was doing.
That's where the whole misinformation craze really started.
Like. Yes. It's like, they say like celebrity person, like this celebrity does this. And you're like, oh, well, totally. Like, and I tried every fad diet. I was starving myself, drinking Slim Fast shakes and not eating. And for me, I would argue this about anything you do, but when you're singing opera, your body is your instrument, and I was treating my body like trash.
You're starving it, essentially.
Starving it or binging, and a super bad relationship with food, and I was afraid of food. I would be afraid to eat, and I would argue an eating disorder, but really bad relationship with food. Right. And so I started losing my voice. I wasn't performing well in school, and I was getting super lost and confused about what I wanted to do with my life, because I felt like the one thing I was good at, I wasn't good at anymore, because I just wasn't taking care of my instrument. Yeah. And once I graduated from school, I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm so confused. And I started reading some holistic nutrition books. And for the first time in my life, I started to learn about, food is not the problem. Food is the answer, which is so cool. Yes. I never thought like, like you eat something and it's like, this is going to make you perform better. It's going to make your skin better. It's going to make your body look the way you want it to look. And
that's Brandon, that's going to be the title of the podcast. Food is the answer. Just so you know.
Food is the answer.
Let's remember. Sorry to interrupt.
No, but it's totally.
That's such a great thing to say.
Yeah, no, totally. Like, food is the answer. And all of a sudden I kind of had like this incredible thing. And I'm sure you can attest to this. It's like you start eating this way, and all of a sudden you see how it touches your life in every way. All of a sudden my mind became clear. I'm performing better. I'm happy. I'm like feeling good emotionally. And you just want to shout it from the rooftops and tell everyone. So
what in terms of like what you were, how did your diet change from like give us an example of like what you were eating before to then what you were eating after?
Totally. I mean, I was eating a lot of processed, and you know this in the fitness world. Like people are like, oh, it says vegan on it, or it's healthy for me. Like I didn't know how to read a nutrition label at the time. Yeah. I had never really thought about a whole foods diet at the time. I was just doing like fancy dieting products like an idiot. But
that's how they get you.
That's how they get you, because you're like, I want to look like the person, on this thing. And so all of a sudden I was eating this whole foods diet and fell in love. Then I enrolled myself in this school called the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, and I studied there. And what's so cool about that school is you kind of learn about every single diet out there, and there's so many ways to eat. Yeah. And I tried a vegan diet for a while, and then I tried paleo. You try everything, and you get to see, what feels good for your body. And one of the things that I really learned over the years is it changes like so much with like, the way you train, or like the way, even the way your day looks. Like if you're going to be hiking all day versus like a day you're sedentary, like my diet really does change.
And even seasons. Like seasonally. Yeah.
Amen. Yes. Yeah, totally. So that was such a big aha for me. And then I started coaching people and then lecturing, and here we are.
Wow, that's amazing. So I mean, really, the big change was from processed food to real food.
Yeah, which is not like, I mean, it's so simple now that you think simple, it's not like no one's gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna write this down. But like,
I mean, it's funny because obviously there's a huge problem in America. There's a huge problem with the kind of foods that most people are eating. There's a huge problem with weight. There's a huge problem with obesity and all that kind of stuff. And I think often people are looking for like miracle answers. Yeah. And so often it's just no. You just need to stop eating processed food and start eating real food. For most people, it's as simple as that. Yeah. There are so many, like you were just saying before, there are so many diet foods out there. There are so many like fake foods on the shelves of the supermarket that will say, low in this, low in that, good for you, healthy, blah, 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 blah. And it's all just man-made goop that's kind of gelled together that your body can't metabolize. No. And I think that's the main thing for me is if people can just get back to eating real food that was not man-made, that will solve like 90% of their problems.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's part of like what I love about what I do now is like I try to show people like, look, like I don't love cooking, but a lot of what I share on my Instagram is, and it's like, this is 3 ingredients. Like you can make this, or like, what are your favorite foods to eat, and how can we be creative and find a way to make them so they have great ingredients, and it's not like a cheat food. It's like a treat, and it's got good stuff in it. Yeah.
If you were to like, kind of summarize your brand, like what would you say it is? Because you're not.
I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
Like, what do you see? I don't know.
It's interesting to me because you're not vegan. But you post a lot of like vegetables and vegan like type foods that vegans could eat. Yes. But you do eat meat.
I do.
Correct? Yeah. So I love it because it's a very broad-minded approach to nutrition. It's not you're not trying to like tell people you have to be vegan or you have to be carnivore or you have to be this or you have to be. You're just experimenting with all these different fresh foods, and you're saying like you can eat this, you can eat this. This like these are all real foods. This is all available to you. It's all relatively simple. So I see you as kind of this like clean eating guru kind of thing.
Ooh, I'm a clean eating guru. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and I feel like I don't know, but for me, I think the one thing I see people, especially Americans, not eating enough are vegetables and fruit, like the produce stuff. So that's what I try to share the most of, because I'm like, remember broccoli? Like look at broccoli.
What's your take on, because you said you were vegan for a while. Oh, you experimented.
I did.
How did that go for you, and what were the issues with it?
I don't know. Well, okay. I've learned so much over the years, but when I was originally doing it, I was a newer vegan, so I was eating like a lot of things that were like vegan ice cream or vegan, like the crappy shit.
Okay, yeah.
Now, if I were to do it again, I would definitely like more whole foods. But for me, I don't know, I'm so hungry all the time, and like the meat, like now I'm doing a macros diet, and I've never done that before, and I'm in love. And I just think there's something about having that balance of the proteins and the healthy fats and the carbohydrates.
Yeah,
and I feel better.
It's the proteins that are really hard, and the fats, and
Yeah.
the animal fats, which are also like crucial for energy and vitality. And I think, I'm not prejudiced against vegans, but I know some really fit, really
Same.
healthy vegans who
I
are
do
super
too.
strong and stuff. But it's always a challenge for me when I get a client or someone comes to me who is a vegan. The challenge for me is always trying to get enough protein in that isn't man-made.
Yeah.
Because you can get these like Beyond Burgers and all this shit.
Oh,
I'm
like, don't do that.
Yeah, it's a way of getting the protein up, but it comes at a cost, right? Because now you're consuming a bunch of chemicals.
Yeah.
So to get enough protein naturally is always the challenge.
It's
right?
a challenge.
It's a difficult thing to do. So yeah, again, I love that you have this kind of broad-minded approach about it. And how do you feel about, when it comes to these vegetables and these fruits and stuff, how do you feel about kind of like organic versus, non-organic versus, from the farm, from the supermarket?
Well, this is a big conversation.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, if you can
This is
get
my
it from the
favorite
farm, like, then you're doing it. Now, for me, I coach a lot of people. Like, I give a lot of lectures to colleges, and so then you have a question of access. Like, a lot of these kids don't have a lot of money, or some of them are living off of food stamps and things like that. And so I'm not going to make them feel bad if they can't get something organic. If the best they have available to them is, some broccoli that's probably, not organic, I'm like, that's okay. If that's where we have to start, that's where we have to start.
Yeah.
That's why one of the things I want to touch on in the future is like, how can we grow some of our own food? I would love that. Even if you have I have a patio, like a tiny little patio, but if I can grow my own tomatoes or something like that, I think that would be cool. Or it just sucks that organic sometimes is way more expensive.
Yeah.
And
it's expensive to buy, but it's also expensive to get your food registered as organic.
Yeah. Oh, I can't imagine.
Organic.
Which
it's just,
it's a whole thing.
It's almost a scam because it's just about how much money you're willing to pay to have your food, certified organic.
Right. And so it's like, what are some things that are small that we can do? Like, if you have access to a community garden, or can you grow some things yourself, or can we, go to a farmer's market and you do the best you can with what you have. But yeah, ideally we have our food delivered to us from local farms.
Yep.
We high five our farmer. We're like, what's up, Bill? Bill's like, what's up, Alex? And that's the dream. And, I'm always looking for ways that we can do that.
I was listening to this guy, Sadhguru. Do you know this guy? This Indian. Do you know who he is?
Yeah. Are you guys friends?
I wish. This guy's
oh, cool.
unbelievable. Like, to listen to him is it's just incredible. Super intelligent, super holistic, super yoga in the true sense of the word yoga, as in finding balance, finding peace. But his main thing right now is soil, and talking about soil and talking about like how we can replenish the soil, because as you know, we only have maximum 60 years left of topsoil unless we do something about it, unless we change our farming practices, that kind of stuff. But he was saying, an orange in 1920 had 8 times the amount of nutrients that it has today. So you would have to eat 8 oranges now to get the same amount of nutrition that one orange had in the 1920s.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's terrifying.
I know. It's
so when we're talking about the pandemic, and we're talking about why Americans were so susceptible to the pandemic. It's not that hard to understand once you realize how bad nutrition is and how little, macronutrients and micronutrients, how low those levels are in most people.
And that's if you're doing, like, you're on it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you could be eating a, really good diet, and going to Whole Foods or whatever, but if you're not getting it from good soil, you're still like, you know what I mean? So good luck if you eat like crap.
Yeah. And again,
yeah.
We're supplementing heavy with vitamins and pills and so forth because we know that we're deficient in all these things, but it's not the same as it coming from real food that our body can like easily digest and metabolize.
I know.
And it's a scary thing, but the good thing is there is a lot of people in the regenerative movement who are going back to the old ways of farming and trying to push it, and there are all these these organizations set up to try and encourage and explain and educate and try and get people back to it. I'm working with that Richard's Grass-Fed company, and they're doing a great job.
I see you posted. They look great. They're doing
great work, great stuff, and it's getting. Actually, they just got it in the. I didn't take this brand, but in my supermarket in Idlewild, they just started getting it in the local market. Richard's. Yeah. So it's growing, which is good, because it really is the only solution because you got the whole argument of we need to stop eating as much meat, we need to start eating more corn and soy. I'm like, what are you talking about?
It's
like,
very scary.
you are going to add to the obesity crisis. You are going to kill the soil even more. You're going to use more and more water, and it's kind of terrifying that is being touted as a solution, because that is the opposite of the solution.
It is. And I travel, well, I used to before the pandemic, to a lot of colleges, and I went to Wisconsin and told them not to use to be careful of like soy, and they love Monsanto there. It was like, they're like, oh, they save our farm. So I was like, oh wow. They're like, this farm has been in our family's generation, forever. And now, thanks to Monsanto, we're able to keep our farm. And so you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, but it's not going to last. That's
no.
Yeah. It's a struggle.
This is a tricky thing.
Yeah. So in your business,
yes.
Do you work with private clients, or how does it work? Or you do some television work? And
I do. Yeah. I love that. It's so much fun. That's what I love about my job, is like every day is so different. So a lot of times I'll work with colleges, or sometimes I'll do like corporate workshops where I'll come in and, for me, I just try to be a cheerleader for eating whole foods. And I'm a weirdo. I gave up sugar like 6 years ago.
Oh yeah, I read that. Yeah.
And I don't drink. I'm a fun time. Please
don't drink at all?
No.
Okay.
I think it's because I'm 4 foot. I don't think alcohol is bad. I am 4'11", and I get blackout drunk off of one drink, and then everyone's like, "Don't invite Alex again." So that's where we're at with that. But I just love being an advocate for whole foods, and for just showing people it's not hard, and just trying to remind them that they're there. So that's most of what I do. And then sometimes I'll do stuff on TV and do like fun cooking things, and it's always a good time. How
did the TV stuff come about? How did you get into that?
How did I get into that? I grew up in a performing family. So my dad was an actor. Oh, my sister does acting, and I guess we always like our showboats, our family,
right.
Except my mom, she does real estate.
Let me just tell you, just while we're talking about this, Alex we had like an open mic night, and Alex gets up, and of course she's 4'11", you said?
Yes.
She's 4'11". She starts singing. This voice comes out of her. I was like, "Holy fuck!" This huge voice comes out. It was incredible.
Thank you for saying that. I was like, "Why did I pick that song?"
No, it was awesome. It was awesome.
No, that was so cool. I love seeing how talented everyone is here. But
it was great.
Yeah, no, I love to perform, and so I started doing like little videos. I did a TED Talk, and then I was at a party. I met this lady, and she did stuff for Hallmark, and said, "Do you want to, send me your stuff?" I said, "Sure." And, look, I'm not a schmoozer. I get very nervous, but I did. Right. I sent it to her. And then I did a couple things on Hallmark, and I was like, oh, this is fun. So then I started doing stuff for like Good Day LA, and I don't know where else. Lifetime. Yeah.
Cool.
It's fun.
Really fun. Are you cooking on the show? Is it like you're taking...
Yes, and let me tell you, it doesn't always go well. Like sometimes, because you're like on camera, so you're like trying to perform and also like measure shit, and I have made some mistakes on TV.
Right.
But
doesn't matter.
Thank God. Like I just go like, well, this is happening. But it's so much fun.
Yeah, it's awesome. So a day in your life, what does that look like? Are you a super organized food preppy type person, or are you like you have a bunch of food in the house and you just cook on the go, or how does it happen?
I don't know if it's because I'm Italian or just high maintenance, but like I love meals.
Probably both, maybe.
Both, 100% both. I love having everything like freshly made. Like I think meal prepping is amazing for people, especially if you're busy or you're trying to eat a certain way. But I love like getting in the kitchen, and there's something therapeutic about cooking for myself, like every meal, which I love to do. But yeah, every day is kind of different. Some days I get up and I'm shooting content for Instagram. Other days I'm like on set doing something, or sometimes I'm cold emailing schools, and we're talking about like what we're gonna give a lecture on and things like that. So
Instagram's funny because like for me, like there are so many issues and problems with Instagram. I don't know where to start, but I see a channel like yours, and I'm like, this is how Instagram should be done, because this is helpful, this is educational, and this is how it should. This is what it should be used for, because it's benefiting society as opposed to like dragging it through the dirt.
Thank you for saying that, because there are days I'm like, maybe I will start drinking. Like after I go on Instagram, I'm like, you know what? Forget it. I'm old. No one cares.
Well, it's also like you're opening yourself up to a minefield, right? Because people can make all kinds of comments like, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't do this, you should eat
Oh,
this,
yeah.
you shouldn't eat that. Like,
It's amazing. People have opinions, and I'm like,
especially when it comes to food, because everybody wants to be in their, they're in their pocket, they're in their, they're in their.
I had no idea that chocolate covered, like, I did like chocolate covered Reese's, and I got so many mean comments. I was like, why are people so angered by this?
Yeah, people get angry on
people are very angry, so there's that.
So with the food thing in general, and with the clients you have, like, how do you approach? Let's say I'm coming to you and I've got a terrible diet.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about nutrition.
Yeah.
And I've never really cooked before.
Yeah.
How do you start someone off? How do you say, okay, here's how we're going to start? How would you approach that situation?
That's great. Firstly, I like to always talk to them about, like, what are they good at? Maybe they suck at eating, but maybe they're so fucking good at sleeping. Like, they have a really good sleep schedule. Like, if we can, I think sometimes people come to me and they're just like, I can't do this, I can't do that. And I'm like, let's talk about a couple things that you're great at. Let's celebrate those.
So start with a good,
so you feel good
start
already.
With a positive. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I have them focus on one thing at a time. I really, people don't love that, but I'm always like, one thing. Like, if you can focus on just drinking water and making that a habit, so it comes to the point where you don't even think about it, we've locked that in, and then we can go to the next thing. And then also I tell people, like, we love to focus on adding. So it's like, oh, I eat like shit. I'm like, fine. Okay, you're going to eat a whole pizza. Great. Let's put some protein on that. Let's put some greens on that. What can we add to what you're already having? So we're just making small, sustainable changes that you can make habits that you take with you.
Small, sustainable changes. I like that. And then from there, at what stage do you start talking about macros and maybe doing a macro-based diet?
I kind of feel it out with them. So like some clients I have are like, they're like, I come from an eating disorder background. Like I get obsessive. Like I'm a little afraid. I'm like, let's not go there yet. Let's not. So I kind of feel them out that way.
I mean, like we said, I guess the first instance is just to get them eating real food, right?
100%. Like, if I can just get you to, buying like I had a client that she's like, I don't eat vegetables. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, you eat any she's like, no, I don't eat any vegetables. I was like, oh shit. So I'm like, okay, let's find a couple you like. So there's that. And then what did you ask me? I got so lost.
No, we were talking about just getting people from eating shit to just eating
macros.
real food. Like before we get to macros, the main task is to start eating real food again before we get to macros, and then maybe the macros come in later. And I, like I said before, I think most people's problem is not that they don't understand macros. Most people's problem is just that they're not eating enough real food, because if you do eat real food, it's filling. It's it's satiating. Like especially if you're eating a lot of protein. If you eat your required amount of protein, it's hard to eat too much of anything else, because you're pretty full from that protein allowance. As you guys know, when you eat protein, it's a lot harder for your body to break down than simple carbohydrates. Your body's using energy to break down those proteins.
Yes.
It's a hard process. We have something called the thermogenic effect of food. So when you're eating protein, your body's actually using energy, so you're burning calories in effect to break down that food, and that happens more with protein than it does with carbohydrates and fats. So if you are consuming high levels of protein, it gets hard to eat too much of anything else. And sometimes, I've had clients before who I'm trying to get bigger. Yeah, you almost have to cheat them into eating carbohydrates so they'll get more calories in, because you can't eat any more protein because
they're just like, I just can't. Yeah.
But the thing, like, if you eat like chips, like you can keep eating chips.
I sure
even
can.
If you're full. Even if you're full.
Bags and bags. Yes.
Yeah. You can have a huge steak and eggs, whatever, and so I'm done with that. But then the chips come and it's like, I can eat a few chips.
Oh yeah.
And I can keep.
Yeah.
You can just 100%. Nibble and graze all day long on that shit and get those calories up. So usually, I mean, that's if someone's trying to get bigger, but usually the problem is the opposite. It's like, okay, how do we reduce this person's overeating? Usually it's, okay, let's up the quality proteins. Right. Let's get those quality proteins in there, and usually then things start to balance out.
Absolutely. And I think what I see with a lot of clients too is they have burnout, where they're like, I'm eating the same thing all the time. And that's where I get so excited about like grocery shopping.
Creative, yeah.
I always tell people, when you go, I'm sure she's been mentioned on this podcast, but Alice Waters, she's the kind of founder of Farm to Table.
Oh, yeah.
And she's got a master class. And one of the things she talks about in her master class is like, when you go grocery shopping, a lot of us go with a list, which is great. It's super helpful. We have like our routine when we go to the store. But really like letting your senses be your guide as you go shopping and seeing what smells good. Like I'll never forget, I was at this market and I smelled the strawberry. The strawberries were real fragrant because they were in season. And it wasn't on my list, but I was like, I'm going home with you.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, I think sometimes, especially when we're eating healthy, there's burnout, but then you're like, what's in season? What smells? What looks really good? What's fresh? And then we start, you know, having more diversity in our diet and getting like a range of nutrients and things that we wouldn't normally get by going off that list.
And it's such an obvious thing that we should eat foods that are in season.
Isn't
because
it?
that's how we evolved for thousands of years.
Yeah.
And yet we have become these convenient monsters that just eat what's convenient. And now, because everything is convenient, because a supermarket can have everything in there, regardless of the season, regardless of the time of year, we've just gotten used to consuming everything all the time.
Watermelons in winter. Like, what's
Exactly.
going on? Why are we doing it? I don't know. I've done it. I was like, when I was a raw person, I didn't know any better. I was like, why am I so cold?
I talked about this in the podcast a lot before. So if people are listening, they're like, shut up about this show. But I'm just going to talk about it with you because I think it'll interest you. So there's a show called Alone. Have you heard of it?
No.
So with Alone, they take 10 people, they put them in a really hard climate, really hard terrain in the middle of nowhere. So let's say, for example, like they're in Alaska or in cold parts of Canada. And it's basically, they drop them off and they have to survive for as long as possible with only 10 items. So they get 10 items. So like a knife, a bow, a tarpaulin, like tarps, you know, 10 things they can survive with. And of course they have to hunt, forage, you know,
Wow.
whatever they can do to survive. But for me, it's a nutrition show because it teaches people these are the essentials of life. These are the things that you need to get to survive. If you don't get them, you will die.
Right.
You have to give up the show because you can't possibly survive.
Yeah.
You know, there is no supermarket. There are no keto bars.
Right.
There are no cans of anything. It's like you have to hunt and forage to survive. And it's really, and of course, so it has to be in season. The animals have to be there. The fruit has to be there. The vegetables that are available have to be there. And then, of course, when winter comes, when the snow comes, you know, it's very hard to get any vegetables or any fruits. So it's a real, and of course, that's how we existed for thousands of years.
Yes.
So it's a really good lesson in, you know, when you think about nutrition, all you're thinking is, what does a human being need to survive? What are the key ingredients to my survival? And that show teaches you, like, this is what you need to survive.
Right.
It's simple.
Yeah.
They're there in nature. It's existed for thousands of years.
Yeah.
It's seasonal. It's, you know.
And it's amazing. You feel good when you're eating in
You
season.
do.
Like, sweet potatoes keep you warm in the winter. Like, root vegetables warm you up.
Yeah.
And cooling foods are great for, you know, the summer and things like that. So it's like, you feel better.
It's true. And it's also like, you don't feel like root vegetable soup in the summer for a reason.
No, for a reason. Yeah.
Right. Your body's not craving that. It's like,
No.
I'm craving the fresh, the salad, the cooler foods.
Totally.
For that reason. And our bodies are clever like that. They know what they want. We've just taught them to want something else.
Yeah.
Oh, you want Domino's. That's what you want. It's like,
Yeah.
do I?
I guess I do.
And then the chemicals like prove you right. It's like the chemicals in there will give you that kind of like immediate boost of like, oh my God. And then of course the huge fall off after it.
Totally. And it's so wild too. Like, I mean, especially when you're eating a lot of processed foods, it's turning off that hunger hormone that makes you feel satiated. So you could eat and eat. Cause sometimes you see people like, oh wow, you know, how did they get to be, you know, so big? And it's like that hormone has been turned off. They never feel satiated. They never feel full.
Yeah.
And
satiation is a real issue. Do you work with kids at all?
You know what? I'm afraid of children. I think it's my height. They don't listen to me.
It's not your height. They don't listen to me either.
Oh, okay. I was like, they're like, get the little one. I'm like, no, please.
It's, you know, when you're a parent, when you're a dad, like when the first one said, my kid's going to be different. They're going to eat all the right things. Yeah. They're going to only eat this. They're going to eat organic. They're going to eat this and that. And when Wyatt first started off, it was really good because they're incapable of doing anything. So you are literally dictating what they have. So we were only feeding him, you know, organic foods. Like we were literally giving him what we would have. So it would be meats and vegetables and fruits and that kind of stuff. Then they get to a certain, he's 2 now. They get to a certain age where they suddenly become aware of sweets and granola bars and peanut butter and jelly and all this stuff. And I don't know whether they get it from, TV or their friends or where it is, but suddenly it becomes all they want. And it's a real effort to get them to keep eating the real foods. It's kind of bizarre.
Yeah.
And it's all because, I guess, kids get very addicted to sugar very easily, and they want that kind of sugar rush, I guess. But it's a really interesting condition, because obviously if it didn't exist, he wouldn't know. If it didn't exist, he wouldn't be asking for it, because he wouldn't even know. But at some point, something happened where he realized it existed.
Yeah.
He got hooked on the taste, and now it's all all he wants to eat is toast with peanut butter and jelly. And
I get that.
I
It's
know.
very comforting.
I know. And I'm just like, dude, you had that already.
Yeah.
We're eating meat and eggs right now.
Yeah.
Totally. And I'm just trying to drill meat and eggs into him.
I think he will.
And he will have it.
Yeah.
But it's a fucking effort.
I can imagine. And
luckily he likes fruit, so he likes apples and bananas and stuff like that. So that's good. I can get it in. But it's just interesting how at such an early age, and you can see why it spirals, because it's if I wasn't a super conscious parent about food, because I'm paranoid about it.
Yeah.
I'm paranoid about them going down that the road that could lead to real problems and real issues.
Yeah.
And because I'm so aware of nutrition myself, it's if I wasn't in that place, I could see how parents can just go down that road of it's toast, it's chips, it's this, it's that, whatever, just to shut them up.
Yeah,
kind
totally.
of thing.
I've seen it. Just give them the goldfish, let them have it.
Yeah, it's let them have it. But it's just so, it's interesting, because I think to myself, what happened? Was it marketing? Was it media? Was it my did I just fuck up?
No.
It's just.
I think it's what they put in the food too. I mean, they're very addictive things.
Very addictive.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing. And that's the scary thing, because companies, they're evil genius. They're oh, put this. They're because I heard, is it Coke? I don't know what company it is. Isn't it Coke or something, where they're testing the bliss point in the brain of what's lighting up? Yes.
Well, it was Mountain Dew that was the.
Oh, that.
Yeah. So they realized that there is that bliss point where there's a certain level of sugar that enters your system where you're it's like doing a line of Coke, right?
Yes, 100%.
You get into that euphoric state. And I think it was Mountain Dew that were the first to do that, and they employed these scientists to find that point, that exact level of sugar, and put it in the drink.
And that's why I always tell people, I know everyone's oh, everything in moderation, but when you're playing with drugs, it's would you do just a dollop? Just give me a dollop of cocaine.
Right.
When you're fucking around with things that are that potent, I mean, you can't. There's no moderation, because there are people that are there's a lot of money and research behind them making you addicted to it. So it's you can't
And then it is I do see it as the job of parents, to recorrect that, because if you don't get it under control, it will spiral
100%.
Because again, like we just talked about, imagine a child from the age of 2 to the age of 18 not getting any nutrients.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And that sounds crazy to say, but there's a ton of people that are not getting any nutrients.
No,
because they're just eating snacks, fast food, junk food.
It's amazing.
It's terrifying. So you think about what the human body is, what's happening to that human body when it doesn't have any nutrients that it craves to survive and develop and evolve.
And it's wild when I do coach people that have eaten like that, and all of a sudden they start eating vegetables and drinking water and eating some good protein. They're like, "Oh my god, I didn't realize I felt so bad." You get used. You just don't. You think you wake up and you feel like crap, and that's normal. And
and it's also because the human body is so clever in that it can adapt to any situation, so it will adapt to eating that shit. You will feel like shit, but you just don't know you feel like shit because you don't know anything else.
Right.
But it will survive because it has to, and it finds a way. But, obviously the likelihood is you're going to get sick, you're going to feel low energy, you're going to have bad habits, all that kind of stuff. But like you said, as soon as you start eating the nutrients and the nutrition, it's oh, fuck, this is a whole new way. But with kids, it's difficult because they don't really have that yet. So they just go off the, go off the sugar, right?
Yeah,
it's just
totally.
Oh, I like how this tastes. I like how this makes me feel. I want to run around like a maniac. So I'll just have the peanut butter and jelly.
Totally.
But then, like I said, I think it's the job of the parents to be we can't rely on school teachers or, we shouldn't rely on the the government to tell us what we should be eating. For God,
God, no. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, it's down to us
Might as well read Cosmo at that point.
Right. Exactly. Well, here's a funny story about Cosmo. Like, and I've done numerous interviews for magazines like that. I will tell them stuff in my interview that will never see the light of day in the article.
Sure. They're like, that's not fun. Let's not print that. Yeah.
They will just take whatever they want and they will completely rewrite it, and I'll read it and like, I didn't say any of this stuff.
And then people read it like me, who are like taking it,
right.
you know, like very
They'll
seriously.
just reframe it to what they think their readers want to hear.
Yeah.
I
mean, all I can say for parents is like, and this is the few things when I've worked with moms and stuff, is like, you know, for me, when I was growing up, my family's Italian. We would grow things in our garden and I'd pick them and I felt so excited to eat them because I grew them. So getting them involved in that way, if you can have them grow things and pick them, or they get to make it themselves. Like, I could have made mud, but I would have eaten it because I made it. You know what I mean? And so, you know, making them part of the kitchen, that's something I was so lucky, like being Italian, although we're New York Italian, so it's very specific Italian. But what's the matter with you? But yeah, I was always included in the kitchen, and I think it's so interesting that some kids, you know, never really grew up in the kitchen. Like, I was cooking with my parents, and I was eating and tasting things with my grandmother as we were cooking them. And when I come home from school, she'd go in the backyard and pick tomatoes, and we'd make a caprese salad. Like, you know, I feel like I had a real connection, and I participated in the meals, and therefore I felt so inclined to eat them.
That's a great point, because I will do that with Wyatt. He has like this well, it's like a stand thing that he can climb into and like be at cooking level. Of course, it terrifies me because the pan's hot, and I'm like, oh, he's going to put his hands out and stuff like that. But he's interested in what's happening. So I think I do need to get him more involved in that process. And, you know, one of my dreams is to have a little ranch one day and grow stuff on the ranch and have little animals and stuff. And
I see that for you.
Yeah,
so
and I think if he can, that would be an easier way to get him involved in the growing process and in the, you know, the picking process.
Totally.
And that kind of stuff. And I think that would you know, hugely help the situation.
Absolutely. And just to see where food comes from.
Yeah.
You know, to see like, oh, this is what a tomato plant looks like. Like,
right.
I just think it's so cool.
It doesn't come from the supermarket.
It doesn't.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point, because especially when kids grow up in the city and parents work in the city and they never, you know, see the country, or they never see a farm, or they never see where anything comes from. I guess they just grow up, because I'm from an island, so I grew up close to farm stuff, so I grew up around that. But I guess if you grow up in the city, you know, you never see any of that. All you see is the city, so you just see buildings and roads and cars and stuff like that. So it's really hard to understand or to comprehend from a young age where food is coming from. I mean, of course, you're taught it in school. Yeah, good luck. But that's different from actually like seeing it in the real world and feeling it in the real world. And I was also the guy, the Indian guy, Sadhguru guy, who was also talking about grounding and how, you know, people reconnecting with the soil and getting those microbes from the soil and working on it and holding things and picking up things, and, you know, the sensation of foods and that kind of stuff. It's a really important part of our evolution that people in the city have completely lost. Yeah. Because they never have that.
No, and I think there's something, I don't know, like, I can tell you there's something spiritual for me. Like, I've gone outside and picked a tomato that's been like baking in the sun, and it's just like, I smell the vine and the whole thing, and it's wonderful.
Do you follow that Liver King guy? Do you follow that? Do you know who the Liver King guy is?
The liver? God, I need to get on the internet. I don't know what's going on.
You have to follow this guy purely for comical reasons, but he's this huge guy. You know, he looks like a bodybuilder, but his whole thing is like, it's called the Liver King. And he just like eats raw meats, eats raw livers, eats a lot of bone marrow, raw, all that kind of stuff. And it's into grounding and talking about like being in nature and that kind of stuff. So it's like the extreme version of what we're talking about. But it's just such an extreme, such a crazy level that it's funny to watch. But it does make you, you know, it does make you think this is how we evolved. This is what we are meant to do. We are meant to absorb sunlight. We are meant to, you know, walk on soil. We are meant to consume these seasonal vegetables, fruits, and meats that they're at that time. And all these, when all these things come into balance, like, we are happier people when we're living in cities with artificial foods and jacked up on coffee all day and, watching TV and watching news and just bombarded with social media and all this shit. And it's like, this is so far away at that point from how we evolved and how we, how we came to be. It's like, what are we doing? Like, no wonder we're so fucking miserable.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
This isn't what we're meant to do. This isn't who we're meant to be. We're meant to move. We're meant to be running around in the sunlight and all this kind of
100%.
stuff, so.
And I think that when we start thinking about those things, they're simple things, you and I aren't saying anything that's like groundbreaking.
So
like,
simple.
Take your shoes off, walk around and touch earth. But like doing those little things, like it goes so far beyond like looking a certain way and being like healthy, like just looking good.
Yeah.
It's like you become a better human and you become better at whatever it is that is your purpose in life. And I always tell people that it's like, yeah, a lot of us start in this because it's like, oh, I want to wear a bikini this year. Like,
right.
That's your why. But then eventually it's like, I want to be a better parent. I want to, feel good so I can be great at my job as a doctor or whatever it is that your purpose is. But it goes so far beyond that. If we're all feeling good, we're being better people to each other and creating more change in the world. And I think it's such a big thing. It's so much more than just looking a certain way or
that's a really important point. I say it a lot that looking a certain way is actually the most boring part of the gym for me. The most exciting part of the gym for me is kind of like what we mentioned earlier, where it's everything you do in here translates to everything you do out there. So if we can improve our mindsets and our capabilities in here, we will improve them out here, and we grow as human beings that way. But to see people's kind of like it sounds hokey to say, but like spiritual growth, and if we can use the gym as a real tool to improve like people's happiness and people's mindsets and their mental situation, then that to me is the real gift of the gym, and it works because I've seen it a bunch. And during the pandemic, like so many people said, like this is the one thing that
this was the thing keeping me together.
Yeah,
and I'm telling you, I grew up in LA. I'm 36. I've been to many a gym. But the community, there's something about working out with somebody, like especially during the pandemic, like the crew, like we run deep, like the 6 a.m. class is like
in deep.
We've been through things together, and we are like, it's incredible because I guess I've never worked out like that. It's like I don't know if people did that back in time, but I'm sure you were like foraging together or doing. There's something like about working and using your hands together. Yeah. There's something crazy there, right?
It's really interesting because I think, the fitness industry has gone through cycles, and I think that's how it started out. And we played games together, and, we as we go up through school and college, university, often we'll play sports together, and it's a very communal thing. And then at a certain point in exercise, it got to be just like, oh no, you're just going to go to the gym on your own. You're going to put your headphones on and you're going to do your workout. You're not really going to talk to anybody, and then you're going to leave. Yeah. And then it kind of went through an evolution, right? And I have to like hold my, take my hat off to CrossFit for this, because they did kind of start this kind of movement of, well, let's get people back to moving together in groups and working together in packs and that kind of stuff. And that kind of changed things back to this like awareness of, oh my God, I'm so much better when I'm among other people. I'm getting a different experience now. It's not just about how I look. It's not just about lifting weights. It's about how I feel amongst this group of people and the energy I get from them and the energy I can use to affect them, and my reactions and their reactions. It's a social thing.
I had no idea.
It's kind of magical.
It's amazing.
It really is a game changer. And even now, like, because we're up in Idlewild a lot, and I don't always have that anymore, and I miss it. It's you just do not get the same experience on your own. Even if it can be exactly the same workout, you can do exactly the same thing, but it is a different experience. And I talk about it a lot with Emily, that the magic for me is in the community and in the kind of teamwork aspect and just being amongst other people. Like we are meant to be social. Yeah. And when I think about different projects, and I think about like, could I open a gym here? Could I open a gym there? It's all about, can I connect with people here? Is there a connection I can make here? And can we make a connection together that can be valuable to the community? Yeah. Like being a personal trainer in a one-on-one situation, though I've done it so much in the past, like people like know me for it, but now it doesn't hold much value to me in terms of the good I'm doing, because I feel like the real good I can do is to create connection and community and that kind of social bond through physical exercise.
Totally.
And that's where I find the most joy and the most success, not financially, but in terms of what it makes me feel like when I see that in people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's the real joy of being a gym owner and being like involved in this business is that thing of you're building a physical army of people who are sharing in moments and joy and change and growth and and all that kind of stuff. That's the real celebration.
Totally. And I think that's, living in LA, we've seen certain like fad workouts or gyms come and go, but I think this is so much more than that. And it's like you're building like a special, like this is such a special place for so many people. Working out just happens to happen while we're here.
Right.
But,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It just happened. Yeah. Working out is just like,
oh, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I'm working out here. But yeah.
So I have a question for you. And I ask this of a lot of people, but I'm particularly interested in your answer here. If I was to ask you, what is your purpose? What would your answer be? And I don't mean like now or in the next 5 years. Like, how do you want to your life? What do you think the purpose of your life is?
Oh my God.
I know it's a big one. It's a big one.
I feel like I'm going to drive home with no music on and just be like, what is my purpose? like this will, I'll just be like lifting out there and crying. I don't know. I feel like my purpose, like for me, what makes me happy is like bringing joy to people's life in whatever way that I can. And connecting with them. Like I'm going to be real with you. I am not the smartest or even the second smartest person in the room, but what I can show up with and that my purpose is making people feel seen and giving them 100% of my time and attention. Because I think now in a world where we live on our phones, to give someone eye contact and 100% be like, fuck yeah, whatever it is you're saying, I'm here, I'm listening. And I feel like that is my purpose.
I love that.
Thanks. Was that okay?
That's awesome.
I'm going to drive home in the car and be like, stupid.
I should have said this. I should have said that. That was perfect.
Yeah, no, okay.
That was perfect. Listen, thank you so much for coming in today. I love what you're doing. I love your Instagram page, which is
Eat Cute.
Eat Cute. It's a great Instagram page, guys. Go to it. There's a ton of like recipe suggestions and food advice and just generally like goodwill stuff on there that will make you feel good and help with the kind of stuff you buy, the kind of stuff you make, and all that good stuff. Do you have a website as well? Or?
I do. It's eatcute.com.
Eatcute.com. Go check that out. Thanks so much for listening in today, guys. If you have any questions for us, hit us up on the page. We are at 1316 Glendale Boulevard, Echo Park. Come see us soon. We are open and we are building as always. All right, guys. See you soon. Take care. Bye.